Every great app that you have used had something invisible behind it. Something that listened when you clicked, remembered when you saved, and spoke to AI when asked. That something is not magic. It's your backend. And in our ecosystem of MERN plus AI, it beats with the pulse of Node.js. In the world of MERN plus AI application, Node becomes the quiet bridge, a bridge that connects the user, the database, and the source of intelligence, or your AI. Let's look at some of the examples of MERN applications that you can build, including with AI. Maybe let's start with a resume refiner, where user uploads their resume, sends it to Node, and then Node connects with Claude or OpenAI and then sends back a polished version. Maybe an interview coach, where user enters the job description, the role, the organization, the Node.js receives and connects to Claude and generates smart relevant questions. Maybe a flashcard generator, where user uploads the notes, Node receives and splits them, and connects with Claude, OpenAI, or Gemini and generates a deck of flashcards. In each of these cases, Node is not just the middleman, it's the conductor of the orchestra. Welcome to the much awaited series on Node and our journey to build MERN plus AI applications. So, what is Node, anyways? Now, we'll get into the specifics and the details of the architecture later in the series. For now, it is sufficient for us to discuss that Node is a way to run JavaScript outside the browser. It uses Google's V8 engine to run your JavaScript and libUV library under the hood to handle your file, your servers, your network tasks asynchronously. That's why Node is perfect for backend. It speaks JavaScript, handles multiple tasks asynchronously, very smoothly using events and callbacks. In the MERN plus AI setup that we are building, there are majorly three important players. Our front end, which we'll build on React, our backend, which will be in Node, and the AI ecosystem, which can be your Claude, OpenAI, Gemini. How the typical flow is going to look like is we'll issue a request from the front end, which will go to our backend, which will be built on Node. The backend will receive the request, parse the request, format the request, and send it to the AI system. And there it will receive back the response and then maybe transform them further and send it back to the front end. This is the typical flow that we're going to work with. And in this setup, your backend must do three things very well. Ideally, speak the same language as the front end, handle many tasks asynchronously, which can be your AI calls, database calls, your authentications, be scalable, secure, easy, and fun to learn. And Node checks all three. Before we write a single line of code, let's make sure your machine is ready to host a backend. What you need to do is you need to ensure that Node.js is installed in your system. So go onto your browser and search for a way to install Node.js. Click on the nodejs.org and then you can see the instructions to install Node.js. Here you have a bunch of scripts which you can run in your terminal to install Node.js. This is using npm, which is a Node version manager. So basically, this helps you switch between different Node versions when you're working on different Node projects. And other thing to remember is make sure that you're choosing LTS, which stands for long-term support. This is more stable version. So current one might be experimental in nature, so we generally use the LTS version. So you can just run these scripts one by one and it should install Node in your system. Or you can go for a pre-built Node package. Depending on whether you're working on a Mac or a Windows, you'll get a installer options here. If you're on Windows, you might get a MSI package to run and install this. Now, I already have this installed, but you can just complete this process. And how do you verify this? You can come to your VS Code or your terminal, open up your terminal, Control tilde, or from this view option, and then just type node hyphen v, this is node version, and npm hyphen v. So you should get some numbers as an output, right? Depending on what version you have installed. Now this might be different depending on what version you are installing. right? So that is it. So this confirms that Node and npm are installed. What is npm? Npm stands for Node Package Manager. It's a very powerful tool that lets us install libraries like Express, your Mongoose, your OpenAI SDK for that matter, all of which we'll need in our projects. Right? So of it like a trusted store where every tool and package is available and you can install it via some command scripts. And we'll do that shortly in our uh, classes. Alright, so what you can do is to get started, create a project. You can choose to give the name of your project here uh, as the name of the folder and create a file, server.js, index.js. This will be like the entry point or the main file. And what you need to do is in your terminal, we have to navigate to this folder. So inside Tapovan, I should come inside the node, and then I should come inside the class one. You can hit the tab key for the auto completion, right? So once you're inside the right folder, inside the right path, you have to write npm init -y, correct? Now you see what happens. A new file package.json got created. What the command npm init -y does is, which we just ran, this sets up our project, a new node project with default package JSON, which keep tracks of the name, version, description, right? The main file, the starting file. You can choose to give custom scripts like if you want to write a script to build your project, if you want to write script to check for the linting errors, so we all of that can be done in the script section. We'll do all of that shortly. This also contains dependencies, so we'll install external packages very shortly now, and you'll see that all those are also documented and maintained in this package or JSON file. It's a very important file. And what does what does -y mean? This flag. This basically, if you don't give this flag, the npm init command will ask you a series of questions like your name, the version, description, etc. You need to enter those manually. The -y basically spins up the project with the default values. It is used for the quick scaffolding, right? So I kind of do that. You can do it for a quickly setting up your project. Okay. So once this is done, let us write a basic console.log statement saying our backend journey begins here. Save it. And how do you run a node file? You come to your terminal and write node and the file name. Okay. And we see it running there. That's it. Your backend heartbeat is alive. Node is powerful but raw. You can use it to create servers and handle requests, but that would require a lot of setup and low-level handling. That is where we'll use Express. It's a lightweight framework built on top of Node that makes your code more readable, maintainable. It gives us a lot of very clean and easy to use functions using which we will define the routes, manage the requests, send back the responses. Later, we'll even do advanced stuff like adding middlewares, validations, right? So Express is a basically gives structure, more readability, and more freedom and flexibility to your code. So let us just quickly add Express into our project and build our very first API slowly, calmly, and clearly, one line at a time. All right, so let's install the Express into a project. And whenever you want to install an external library into the project, what you will say is write npm and the name of the package, and you can come to this npmjs.com, and this is how this is your package Express. You can read about the package, how to use the package, how to. We'll do all of this shortly. You can read about documentations, some philosophy, and other examples even. What we're interested in is to copy this particular command, right? And you can also see the weekly downloads and all of this. When was this last published? Some of these stats are important when you are choosing between multiple packages. You would want to go for a package which is more popular in terms of weekly downloads. It is being maintained. So you can see last published is 4 months. It is being relatively maintained. So of course, Express is a very known package. I'm talking about more other packages which where you might have multiple options and you have to choose one, right? So let's use this now in our application. So come to your terminal and copy the command. This will install the Express package in our project. So if you come to the package JSON now, you will see that a dependencies section is created and the Express is now listed here with the version number. Okay, so this is the major version, the minor version, and then there's the patches. There are three uh, basically numbers to reflect your package version number. Okay, so let's now write code to include our Express package line by line. What we do is we kind of first uh, will include this Express package in our code. Okay, so we say we'll define a variable cost Express and require the package name. Okay, so we're asking basically for the Express library, which is a powerful toolkit that will make our life easier to define routes, manage requests. Okay, Express will wrap all the low-level node networking into clean, readable code. That is what we're basically trying to do by the here. Next, we'll initialize an Express application, and it's very simple way to do it. Just give a variable name and then call your Express function. Okay, what we're doing is we're creating an Express application. Imagine this to be your central server object. Everything we define from now on, your routes, your middlewares, your responses, it will flow through this app. Okay, so let's now write code to define the route or endpoint, right? We'll say app, which is our Express object. I'm going to respond to get method, right? So there are different HTTP verbs, your get, put, post, delete, right? So depending on what request you want to cater, you'll write the relevant verb here, the relevant method here, app.get. Inside the parentheses, we define the URL, okay, or the endpoint. So I'm saying if a user comes to my base URL and when the request is get, I want to handle that request in this particular method. Okay, so whenever user is in this URL and the method is get, I will write the callback to handle that request. That callback takes two things, request and response. Let me just complete this and I'll talk about this. I'll say welcome to our node server. Okay, what I'm doing is this line is creating a route, specifically a get route. Okay, when somebody visits localhost slash localhost colon, let's say port number is 3000 slash, which is a base URL. This route will get triggered. And this is the route handler. So Express gives us two very powerful objects, which you can see request and response. This request object, this contains everything, all the details regarding the request which the user is sending, what URL they are sending, what query parameters, what method, what is the request body, like if they're entering a form, when they're trying to submit a form and submit the form, all that form information will be inside this request object. Their headers, the cookies, everything related to the request will be inside this request object. What is this response? This response object is what we will send back to the server, what we will send back to the user, right? So it can be the HTML, the JSON, a file, or a simple plain text like in this case, right? Right now we're just sending a simple welcome message whenever user is going to issue a get request to our server, right? Later we will see different methods like response.json, response.status, response.send file, and so on and so forth as the case arises. Okay. Now we have defined the route. Let us spin up the server and make it alive. We'll say app.listen and listen will give it a port number. For now, let us hardcode. And when the server is up and running, I want this callback to run and confirm a simple console log message saying server is up and running on port 3000. Alright, so we are basically starting the server, telling our server to listen to port 3000. right? So port is like a virtual door. When someone knocks on the door, our app wakes up and responds back, right? App.listen is the moment when your backend server starts breathing. All right, and how do we start the server? We write the node and the file name. We get a confirmatory message saying server is up and running. Let us confirm this. We come to the browser, we say localhost and give it the port number, right? Base URL. And we see the message coming from our server. Let us inspect this. You see, localhost, that is the URL that was hit. The request method was get, right? This are some of the response header. We'll come to this later, right? We'll discuss all of these except concoding caching part later. What I want to show you is the response, the preview, or let us check the response tab. This is what our server is replying back to the browser, which is the client in this case, right? And this is the preview, what we are seeing in the browser. This is the very first handshake between the client and the server. Today you took the first step. You didn't just learn about the node, you brought it to life. In the next few videos, we'll add more endpoints. We'll add authentication, authorization, secure our application using JWT tokens, add MongoDB, connect this server to backend, make it talk to AI, Claude, Gemini, OpenAI. Tapovan is a place to learn deeply, calmly, and fearlessly. See you in the next video.